Hey, my name's Carlyn. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm going through some changes and it feels right to me to share my experience and track my journey, not only for myself, but for anyone else who may be experiencing something similar to me. So I believe that I am an adult living with a tongue tie. In this video, I want to talk about my story a little bit and share my symptoms and what led me to this discovery. I'm really looking forward to tracking this journey and documenting my whole process. I am someone who loves to share, and naturally I love teaching and sharing what I know with others. So if this is of interest to you, then follow along with me. I don't feel like an expert explaining what it is, so if you want to know more, I can include some in the description below. But essentially, it means that your tongue is just attached and there's some webbing that's kind of restricting your tongue from being able to move and function properly. So I had never even heard of a tongue tie before until literally just a couple months ago. My symptoms have been present most of my life. I remember it starting, as young as 4 years old when I was experiencing extreme sleep apnea. I have memories and stories shared with me that by the time I was 4 years old, I was snoring like a grown man. We have hilarious stories of getting noise complaints when we stayed at hotels on family vacations. They would blame my dad, but it was actually me who was snoring. I even had neighbors tell me when they first met me at age 4, I sounded like I was some jazz singer who'd been smoking for 20 years. Like, there was a lot going on in my throat. The lack of sleep, not being able to breathe through my nose properly. I was a mouth breather and snoring very, very loudly from a very young age. You can only imagine the kind of effect that would have on such a young person who's growing and growing and growing. So when I was 6 years old, my parents took me to a throat, nose, ear specialist. My tonsils and adenoids were so swollen and enlarged that they decided that it would be best for me to have my tonsils and adenoids removed because they thought that was the main issue. So that was removed, but a few years later, by the time I was 10 or 11, I was having a lot of teeth issues, including overcrowding. Almost all my front teeth, top and bottom, were crooked, which, runs in my family. There is a genetic predisposition for that, so it wasn't, unheard of. So when I was 10 or 11, I had the palate expander put in for a year, and that's the pretty intense contraption where you had to put a key in and turn it twice every day, and it would push out on my teeth to create more space in my mouth because I was told that I had a very small mouth. So I had that for a year. After that, I went on to get braces, and I had braces for 4 years. So it's a lot of orthodontic work, and in that time I had, teeth removed because that's what they typically do in the orthodontics world. Kind of towards the end of my braces experience. I got them off when I was about 15, but I would say from that age 14 to 15 time, I was experiencing what's called TMJ. Very intense pain in my jaw, and my jaw would pop out of place all the time and would constantly be making these popping and cracking sounds. And then on the reverse, sometimes it would lock up completely and I wouldn't be able to open it much wider than this, and there was just a lot of pain and a lot of tension. So it was really painful and really hard to deal with. So my mom actually took me to a chiropractor and presented the issues that I was having. At that point, I was also already experiencing a lot of upper shoulder and back pain. I think I started to experience back pain around the same time that I got the palate expander, I always remember being told to, stand up straight or, put my shoulders back, but it just caused me so much pain. And so I was constantly arcing my back. And yeah, sometimes I was doing it a little bit out of rebellion because I didn't like being told to stand up straight. But when I think of actually, it physically hurt a lot of the time, and it just felt more comfortable to have my rounded shoulders and to hunch forward a little bit. So when I went to the chiropractor, they would do minor adjustments, but there was a time when we started to really focus in on my jaw, and they used this contraption. I don't know the actual name of it, but it kind of like jolts things into place, and usually they use it on the back, and this particular chiropractor did that on my jaw socket and kind of popped my jaw into place. It really hurt when that happened. I remember for 3 days. It was so painful and red and inflamed. I wondered if it was a mistake. But after that, I actually have not experienced the popping out. Very rarely. Sometimes it does happen every now and again, but for years it's not nearly as frequent as it used to be. It used to be a daily thing. So kind of popped it into place. And then throughout high school, I played tons of sports, but was very conscious of my rounded back, and I used to feel really insecure about it, but it actually felt impossible for me to stand up straight. And even when I was standing up straight, my shoulders were very rounded and there was a lot of tension in my back. I was constantly experiencing pain in my lower back, very tight calves as well. I just thought this was normal. I didn't know that experiencing pain every day was not a common experience for most people. It actually wasn't until I came out to Australia and as a young adult started to seek, support for my back, specifically going and getting massages and acupuncture and different things like that, when somebody actually explained to me what chronic pain is. He described it to me as chronic pain is when you are experiencing pain in a specific area of your body or generally around your body for a period of more than 3 months. When that was explained to me, I actually, it was one of those kind of like jaw-dropping moments because I realized it had been years. At that point, I think I was about 21 years old and I had been experiencing pain since I was 10 years old. That's as far back that I can remember the pain, just being a constant. That was a really eye-opening experience for me, and it made me realize that I have a lot of inner work to do, and I'm someone who is very curious. I like to understand the nitty-gritty. I like to understand what's going on in my body to be really empowered in that way. Yeah, it was great that I was starting to seek support by getting massages, and I had been told by other people that, you have some back issues going on. And I always knew that, but I don't know, in that moment I realized, okay, there's something here and I don't understand it yet, but I'm willing to investigate. And so the past 5 years, I'm 26 now, I have been on a massive healing journey. I was drawn to alternative types of modalities such as energy healing, meditation, and yoga, basically to help manage the pain that I have been feeling for so long, as well as supporting myself in a much more holistic way. I was not interested in taking pain medication, pharmaceutical medications. I actually wanted to get to the root of all of this. In the past few years, it's just been kind of like one piece of the puzzle, adding to the next, adding to the next, adding to the next. It's all connected. All of it is connected. When I think of my journey, I just remember when I was very new into meditation, just the idea of having to sit cross-legged, breathing in through my nose. That was a huge challenge for me. I realized that I was a very shallow breather, still kind of a mouth breather most of the time. I wasn't constantly breathing in through my nose. And so that was the first thing I realized in this journey. and started working on my airflow. And it took a lot of time. It took some practice and some mindfulness to get there. I found it too difficult to be focusing on my breathing as well as focusing on sitting on the floor or a cushion, cross-legged, in an upright position. I couldn't even do it for a minute. It hurts. It used to hurt me so badly, like my whole back was on fire. And so when I started my meditation, I actually would do it laying down to start to feel that deeper sense of relaxation and connectedness within my body. Over time, I started different ways of doing that, like sitting on a chair, in an upright position, breathing to the parts of my body that were experiencing pain, because for me especially it was lower back, my shoulder blades, and it's like it was roaring at me, like full on fire and pain. I think the meditation practice really, really helped and supported me, which also led me to exploring yoga. So I would just do, basic practices that I could find online on YouTube. I just found it much easier to do it in the comfort of my own home because I felt I had a little bit of shame and embarrassment of attending a class in person because of my extreme tightness in my body. So the pain is obviously related to how tight and how tense my body has been. I found most positions to be almost unbearable, to be honest. The tightness in my hamstrings and my calves are so intense. Just basic things like bending over to touch my toes, I could barely get past my knees at one point. Everybody starts from somewhere and it's all part of the journey, and eventually I did work my way up, and my courage to attend a class in person, and it was incredible. Thus led me on this beautiful path, which a few years later I actually went and participated in and trained as a yoga teacher. I will just add that the yoga that I was most drawn to was actually created by my mentor and teacher, Devashi Shakti. She offers female embodiment yoga, and that really, really sung out to me the most because of, just the fact that it's created for the female anatomy. I found that I was really struggling with traditional yogas and holding positions for a really long time. And another aspect of this yoga that has truly supported me probably the most is the full sound expression. So 2 years ago, I went and attended this yoga teacher training. I definitely was doing it for me first and foremost. While I was there living in Women's Temple for 31 days, I went on a very deep, deep journey within my body. Embodiment yoga. It really was a journey of meeting the parts of myself that I had either been avoiding or had been numb to, or, all sorts of things. While I was there, I experienced really deep transformation from within. My body was starting to shift in a way that I had never experienced before. I gained so much strength, inner strength as well as physical strength. My flexibility increased. I was not experiencing as much pain, especially from doing the practices every day. Using the sound to express all of the things that I'm feeling inside, which at that point, and still to this day, is mostly tension in my body, the tightness, the stress, the emotions. Being able to express it out with sound has given my body permission to actually release. I learned heaps about the parasympathetic nervous system and all the inner workings of my body. This was a huge catalyst, and the reason I'm explaining this so much in depth is because it really was a turning point for me. While I was there were specific movement practices that I was learning, and I realized that they were really hard for me to do, and it confused me because they were quite simple. What I mean by that is There's one practice where we are sitting in a meditative state. I would bring my tongue to the roof of my mouth, pointing straight up, and then releasing out with a specific sound to connect with my pineal gland. I found that to be a really challenging position. I felt my mouth become exhausted. My tongue was so tired doing that, and it was hard to concentrate on. And another one that was also happened to be tongue related was this practice of finding awareness in your mouth, bringing your tongue to the corner of your mouth and very slowly sliding over each tooth, and then on the inside, and then down below, doing it again. I remember doing that for the first time and all the other times after that, and just hearing the crunching, my jaw just unlocking and like grr, 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 grr. I couldn't even reach my back molars. I don't know, it just made me realize, wow, there is a lot of tension and tightness here in my body. That's really interesting, and I, mentally noted it. I also realized that I had quite a lot of difficulty in just laying flat on the ground with my head tucked and my shoulder blades back. I found that my back was unlocking and it was amazing. But what I was realizing was there was so much tension in my neck. I actually was feeling very hyper aware and insecure about my jawline, especially when I was laying flat on the ground. It's like I had no chin at all. Like I was just this blob. And it really brought up a lot for me because I had realized that this is an insecurity I've been carrying for quite a while, and I feel a little weird to share that with you, whoever is watching. There's been this one body part I felt super insecure, and that's my jawline. I've never felt super confident about how it looks from my profile. It's made me feel really insecure over the years, and so to be in these really vulnerable positions in a deep practice, just to basically embrace that I had no chin. I felt really confused by that. I felt really confused that me as a young, fit, healthy person, why do I have a recessed chin as if I am, someone who perhaps is overweight? I knew it wasn't weight related. I knew it wasn't related to that. And so when I left that training, I knew that there was work to be done, as there always is. I returned to Australia. The last 2 years, the healing spiral has just continued. The deep body awareness that I have had since that training has brought me to where I am now. I've been working on doing my practices, shifting the energy, becoming aware of how I'm standing just in day-to-day interactions. I feel like I just need to add that when I had braces, I had been told that I had crossbite, so my jaw was over to one side, and I had overbite, just a slight overbite. So my teeth are to the side and forward. When I had the braces removed, my parents were advised by the orthodontist at the time that the only way to fix my crossbite and the overbite situation would be to have reconstructive jaw surgery. So my parents weren't really, they didn't feel good about that. I had already been through 5 years of orthodontic work. They decided it wasn't the right choice for us at the time. As a young adult, I was conscious of that and conscious of the fact that my jaw isn't very defined, and insecurity sometimes brings us to strange places. I even thought about getting reconstructive jaw surgery as a young adult, or I remember even contemplating getting like a chin implant. And all the times that those thoughts came across my mind, I would bring myself back to a loving place of acceptance and realizing that, okay, I'm actually okay. I love who I am inside and out, and this is just one part of me that I can learn to love. So I mentioned that context because at the start of this year, 2021, I started to really focus in on my pain again, my back health. I wasn't able to manage it on my own anymore. I went out looking for alternative modalities again, and I was recommended a person who does spinal networking. It's funny how it was described to me as like a spiritual chiropractor, and I would say that's pretty accurate. I don't really know how to explain it properly, but if you want more information, spinal networking, because this was also a huge catalyst for me. I went to see someone not too far from where I currently live. In the first block of sessions, I was able to experience rapid, incredible shifts in my body. I remember leaving from my first session not feeling any pain in my body. I felt like I could stand up taller and my neck was being repositioned. And so I kept working with this woman because I was experiencing incredible change in my life. It was supporting me emotionally, it was supporting me on a physical level, and it was supporting me on a spiritual level, which is really important to me. What was so incredible about that is there was a lot of education on how I interpret information, how I interpret energy, which supported me, quite a lot emotionally, but even the way that the energy was moving up and down my spine. Specifically, the target areas were down near my tailbone, my coccyx, and up in my neck region. It was noted how much tension was in my neck and jaw area, and we did start working on the realignment. I got to explain to her that, as I'm learning to stand up taller and stronger and be able to hold my body in a more complete way, the chin thing was coming up again. And I was able to just express how this has been a big insecurity of mine. And I think it has fed this forward neck posture because I don't want to be seen as having this, no chin, there's just nothing there. She was really supportive and really great about it, encouraged me to, keep working on it. This process made me realize that there was a lot of tension coming from my neck and jaw area again, and I hadn't quite made the dots connect yet, but that is coming. I was just focusing on being able to move my body, being able to hold my body up, being able to just live without pain. That was kind of my main priority. And so fast forward a few months later, winter, lockdown number whatever here in Victoria, Australia, I did some online shopping and I got this really cool gua sha tool to help define my cheeks and start draining the lymphatic system. And I started doing these jaw exercises that I found on YouTube to be able to create more of a defined look. I wanted to just support my own confidence as I began to stand up straighter and feel better about my appearance without going through drastic changes. So this led me to YouTube, which led me down this little rabbit hole of all these different jaw exercises, and I discovered this thing called Mewing as well. Mewing, I think I vaguely remember hearing about it a few years ago, and I think I tried it and it just didn't work for me, so I gave it up. But this time when I came across this information, it made me realize that my tongue was not in the correct position. When it's just resting and hanging out, it was at the bottom of my mouth. I learned that your tongue is actually meant to be up on the roof of your mouth. There's actually a spot that it's supposed to rest and then be up there, and I was seeing all these people have amazing results with changing their face structure, and I know it can be a bit controversial. I don't know heaps about it, but from what I was seeing, it really piqued my interest. And so I gave it a shot. I tried to become more conscious of my tongue and the position that it was in. It was really challenging for me to keep my tongue up, to hold it. I found my tongue getting exhausted from it. All these jaw exercises I was doing was also really exhausting. So then one day, my YouTube algorithm brought up this video of this random guy saying, "Mewing isn't working for me and this is why." And so of course that piqued my interest. It was just this guy explaining this thing called tongue tie. And I had never even heard of it before, but of course my curious mind, I listened to him and I did heaps of research. The deeper I went into it, the more I realized just how important your tongue position and the ability to be able to do things, simple things like swallowing and even just resting in your mouth. I became a little bit obsessive, to be honest. I wanted to fully understand if this really was something that I was experiencing. I scoured the internet for different resources. I looked for different videos, which I did find a few on YouTube that were really, really helpful. I found a Facebook support group for adults with tongue tie, because the thing is, this is something that is normally picked up when you're a baby, when there is issues with breastfeeding. And when I asked my mom if there was any issues with breastfeeding, she actually said that there was difficulty in breastfeeding, but we were able to make it work, but it did take some time. So this is all really interesting information to find out in context that, wow, this is something that I've been experiencing since I was a baby and has been affecting me my whole life. The pain, the TMJ symptoms that I used to have, the classic orthodontic small mouth, crowding, all of that. Then there is my actual tongue. So it feels a bit silly to be sticking my tongue out at you and showing you all this, but in the context of learning and understanding, I want to be fully transparent and show you what I'm dealing with, what I'm experiencing. So this is how far that I can stick my tongue out. Not very far. And I've always known that I haven't been able to stick it out very far. You know, when you're a kid, you're like comparing, how far can you stick your tongue out? And I was always like, why can't I got a small tongue. I got a small mouth, small tongue. It makes sense now. And so the actual tongue tie is underneath. So I will now show you a beautiful close-up of my tongue so you can see what I'm talking about. I also tried other random tests that I found on the internet just as like a basic thing. I looked at other people's tongues in the Facebook group and online. I just felt that this is real. This is it. Like, this is the missing link that nobody has picked up in my whole life until now. It's me. My journey of inner inquiry has led me to this realization. Of course, it's very important to go and see a professional, a specialist who knows what they're doing in this sort of field. So pretty much immediately I started researching local providers. Melbourne was the closest place, so I called up a few places. I just wanted to get a clear understanding, ask questions, understand costs, that sort of thing. I really understood that if I was to go through with this, it is very important that I support my body. So I found a body worker in my local area who has some awareness on tongue tie. I met with her first. She's an osteopath and craniosacral therapist who is also trained in the tongue tie. Our first meeting, we did a basic assessment. She gave me some exercises to do, and then I was to come back a month later and we were just going to see how my body reacted to that. So after that session, we both agreed that it's probably best for me to go get assessed by someone who was a specialist, and she made a recommendation for a place in Melbourne called Myofocus. She recommended them because of their holistic approach and the fact that they do require to have 4 weeks before the release of orofacial myofunctional therapy, or what other people refer to as myofunctional therapy. And then you have the release, and then you have 4 weeks of aftercare as well. So that felt very in alignment with how I approach my health. Yeah, so I'm booked in to get my assessment, and I'm really looking forward to having that confirmation from someone who is specialized in this field. I feel, trust, and know within me that this is my reality. This is something I am experiencing. But of course, like I said, it is very important to go and see a specialist. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I look forward to sharing my journey as we go. I am pretty nervous, but also really excited to have this clarity in my life. I will document as I go because that feels really important for me. I just want to support people in return for all the support I've already received. Just in the few sessions that I've had with this osteo and craniosacral therapist, it has been incredible. And when I say incredible, I mean incredible. My first session went for about an hour. When I came home, I felt so good in my body, and that carried on for 2 days. I didn't feel any pain in my body for 2 days, and I came home. I stood in the kitchen for 2 hours making a pumpkin pie. Unheard of for me to stand for that long and not feel pain in my lower back. It is incredible. So even if I don't get this assessment confirmed, I at least know that I have an incredible body worker to support me with pain, but I truly believe that this is the root underlying cause of so many issues I've had through my life. I'm looking forward to receiving the confirmation. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you being here. If this has helped you, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you're someone who is an adult with a tongue tie, or maybe you experience similar symptoms and have never even heard of or thought of what could be the underlying root. And if you know someone who may be experiencing similar things to me, yeah, please share this video. My intention is simply to share my journey, but also to support others in their inquiry. As you know, I have found my way through various channels and means, but you know, if I can help fast track somebody's journey, I would love to be that person. So in my next video, I'll share about my assessment, and yeah, thanks so much for being here.